Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Happy Monday. Welcome back to Partnership for Profits. I am Will Brooks, your host, and today we have an awesome guest who helps people fight for their dreams. She's not just fighting cases. We have Sharon Abaud here, who is the founder of Abaud Legal in Los Angeles, where you're helping countless individuals and families navigate one of the most complex and emotional areas of law, immigration law. Sharon, welcome to Partnership for Profit. I'm super glad to have you here today.
Thank you, Will. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, talk to me a little bit about Sharon. I want to know what drew you to immigration law as your area of specialty in practicing.
So people who knew me as a child say I've been saying this since I was a kid, which is strange because we don't even have immigration attorneys or attorneys in our family. So I really do think this is what I was meant to do. During my younger years, my parents were undocumented. And while I didn't understand what that meant, I felt certain things. Like, for example, when I was about 7, my grandpa was really sick and my dad couldn't go see him. And so that was like my first understanding of the situation.
Grandfather was in another country?
Still in Chile, yeah.
Okay.
And my dad, he was having a heart surgery and, which is a big deal. And
Sure.
And he couldn't be there. I just saw, they were trying to hide it from me, but kids pick up on everything. So,
yeah,
I felt that. And then I was there when my dad, we had to go to Chile to get his green card, to get his visa. And then I was there when he became a citizen. So, and as well as my mom. So I just, having been through that whole journey, having seen the devastation, that is caused when someone doesn't have status, and then
right.
All the happiness that comes when you do. I was a part of all of it. And so I understood that this is where I wanted to make a difference.
So you kind of grew up around the whole process.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not just parents, uncles, aunts. And then while they were undocumented, they were building these big businesses. And so I just, I also understood that there was a lot of resilience, right? So I really love that about the immigrant community is they go for all of it. There's no limit. They understand this is an opportunity and they go for it.
Yeah, I think that there's a real sense of dreaming and achieving your dreams that in the immigrant community that I think a lot of us don't have because too much stuff is handed to us. I don't really know why, but yeah, I see that for sure. And I love that about, the immigrant community in this country is that they fight and they just kind of, they don't give up. They just that drive is there that, I think all of us should try to have more of. So, I love that. And I love that that's kind of how why your path led you to what you're doing today. Well, let's get a little bit into immigration law, Sharon. I want to know what are some of the myths or big misconceptions that people have about immigration law in the United States?
There's a lot. I mean, my favorite one is I married a citizen, so that makes me a citizen.
Right.
That's not how it works. It's a whole process, and you might not even qualify even if you're married to a citizen. And you don't just become a citizen, you have to wait for a green card. You have a green card for a couple years, and then you can apply for citizenship, but there's no guarantee of anything.
So you don't just marry in that's a myth. You marry an American citizen, you become an American citizen. That is not how it works.
Not. That is not how I guess I wouldn't have a job if that's how it worked, but
does it shorten the process though? Like that myth had to come from somewhere as far as why people believe that is a thing that can happen. Does it like speed things along at all, or where does that myth come from, you think?
So it does give you the ability to apply for a green card, but just being married to a citizen doesn't make you eligible. For example, if you ever in your life made a false claim to be a citizen, especially, I'm not going to go into specifics, there's exceptions, but if, for example, that has a permanent bar, you will never, with exception, obviously there are ways around it, but through marriage, you will not be able to become a resident. So, or maybe you have a prior removal and you didn't spend the time outside you were supposed to, you came back in, you're not going to be able to get your green card. There's things that happen that make you ineligible.
Interesting. Yeah, that is. I mean, there's a whole movie. It's called Green Card. I don't know if you ever heard of that movie, but it's from the '90s. It's like a romantic comedy. That's the whole conceit of the movie. So maybe that's where it comes from. I don't know, but that's good to know that is not at all how this thing works.
You also hear people talk about, like, oh, they married him for, there's like, even if it's, or married, like they say they married him for money or they married him for papers.
Right.
It's like kind of that same, which is not,
Well, that's like, what's that show, 90 Day Fiance? Have you heard of that show?
Yes, I think I watched the whole first season, but
yeah, it's kind of that's kind of the conceit of a lot of the thinking around that is that there's these people that are overseas that are going to marry an American because they think that's going to get them into America and allow them to live here. But maybe they should, maybe that show needs to have an immigration attorney as a consultant to make sure that they're not spreading the wrong information. All right, let's go beyond the headlines, because obviously immigration law is big in the headlines right now. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the country, a lot of horrible things that are happening around the country right now. There's a lot of political noise around immigration, but there's very little coverage about the day-to-day reality of what's going on. What is the process of achieving, not necessarily citizenship, but just getting legal status? Or is that the same thing? Even let me ask that question. Legal status and citizenship, those are two different things. Am I wrong, or is that?
Yeah, so status can mean different things. It can mean you have a work permit, but you're not a resident yet. It could, or you might never be a resident, or you could be here on a student visa, so you're here legally, but you're not really going to be here permanently unless you apply some other way. Then there's a lawful permanent resident status, and that's right before becoming a citizen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does the process really look like for most of your clients that come in and need help?
Most of our clients, so we handle a lot of humanitarian visa types. So we do a lot of VAWA and U visas and T visas. So it's for T visas for trafficking victims.
Okay.
For victims of crime, and VAWA is for the abused spouses of citizens or residents. And the typical process, I would say, a case can last about 2 to 3 years in which they're waiting, just pending with immigration. And then they can have, they can have a work permit for a visa for about 3 years, 2 years if it's a T visa. And then after 3 years, they can apply for a green card. It's a long process. And U visas have like a 10-year wait. So people wait a very, very long time to have their visa. I mean,
what do you think? Maybe I'm sure you might know the answer. Why does it take so long for it to get taken care of?
That's varying reasons. Processing times keep getting worse. And then when you have certain visa types like T visas and U visas, they're capped. So they only allow 10,000 U visas and T visas a year. T visas haven't reached their cap yet, but U visas have.
Nationwide?
Nationwide, yeah.
That seems really low.
It is very low. And the more popular the visa becomes, the longer the wait list. And so right now, for example, U visa has about a 7-year wait for just the processing time. And then there's about a 3-year wait for the U visa. So once you're approved, you still have to wait for your visa.
So if you have been approved and you're waiting in that waiting period, are you legal at that point? You're legally allowed to be in the country while you're waiting, like you're in that waiting phase? Or I don't want to get too much in the weeds with stuff, but can ICE come pull you off the street if you're in that waiting phase? Which I can't believe that stuff is happening. But anyway, like I'm curious how that works.
Well, technically they're given deferred action at that point, and they'll have a work permit. So they should be protected from deportation. But what we're seeing nationwide now is a lot of, just taking people who do have status, and you kind of have to go through this whole obstacle to prove that they do, get them out of the of proceedings. And so just because you have it doesn't mean that you won't fall into that and then have to fight that legal obstacle.
And so you're locked up while you're fighting that? Is that basically what's happening to people?
That is happening more because now they won't give bond to people who entered without inspection, but to people who are to have some type of status or they entered with a visa, they typically would be released if they were in detention. They have eligibility for bond.
Okay. Like I said, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds with that stuff. It's just, it's something that's happening. We're seeing it. It's in front of our faces, and it's awful. And it's emotional. And that leads me kind of my next question. Immigration cases they're emotional. They're super personal things. Families, futures, lives are at stake. How do you as an attorney and as a person balance empathy with the emotional toll of what it is that you're doing?
I've had to really check in with this year because it hit hard. It was I feel like I had a good groove, for a while, and it's just people calling you scared every day, all the time, and it's just I had to increase the level of self-care at that point, because there's it gets to a point where if you just take too much in, it does become debilitating, and you can't really do your work. You start to experience burnout. So it really is more important now than ever for people in our industry to take care of ourselves, make ourselves stronger, because it is important to care. We don't want to not care. We don't want to completely disconnect, but we don't want to be so much in our emotions that we're not moving, we're not getting things done to help people. There really is. You have to find this fine balance between the two.
So what are some of your self-care things that you do to make sure you're taking care of yourself?
So every morning, I absolutely have to go on a walk around nature. So I have this big park. I'm fortunate to have this big park near me where there's all these trees and squirrels, and I don't know, it really helps me. And I listen to something motivational while I'm walking, nothing negative, no news. I don't want to hear the news. I don't want to hear about all this stuff that happened. I just have to start from a fresh start, and then I get into it, and it just completely shifts my mood. I have to start like that. I can't.
You heard the phrase touch grass?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. You're starting your day by touching grass. That's great.
You have to ground yourself.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I don't do it in the morning. I usually do mine. I usually like midday is when I like to get outside. 4 or 5 hours into my day, I'm like, all right, I have to step away from this screen and see some sunshine and some nature and remember that I'm a human being.
When you're on the screen all day, you forget that there's this whole other element.
There's a big world out there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about storytelling. I think I read that you have said that every case tells a story. Can you share a story that captures why your work is so important, why the work in the immigration field is so important to you?
Yes. So when we handle very humanitarian based cases. So their story is everything, what they've experienced, what they've gone through. And so this is a big question, and I'm just thinking of so many stories, but I'll give you one. So this one covers more of our VAWA clients. And I remember her so clearly. She's already has a green card. It's been years. So she's an older client, but I can't even forget her face. She came to me. She had already been to maybe 4 different attorneys or paralegals, notarios, people. She had just been screwed over left and right. And so the fact that she even trusted me, I was so grateful, because at that point, I wouldn't have blamed her if she was like, I'm done.
Right.
She had a very complicated case. She had lived in the U.S. Undocumented for a long time. She left the country. And then when she came back, she said she presented a fake green card, I believe, or some kind of fake document, was caught, deported, and then she came back. So she basically, as most attorneys would tell her, there's nothing we can do for you.
Right.
And what we did for her, in hearing her story, this is why I like to hear people's stories. I found out that she actually was in a very abusive relationship with her husband, who was a green card holder. And the reason she left the country and that triggered all these problems was because he duped her. He told her, I got you in, the attorney called, your case is ready. You need to go to Mexico to go to your interview. She was all excited. She goes to Mexico. She leaves her kids here with her abusive husband, who was also abusive to the kids. And when she gets there, he says, haha, just kidding. And
So she was
undocumented.
Was she stuck in Mexico for a while? Is that what happened?
She was stuck, and then her kids were calling her. They were being abused. So what was she gonna do? And so she she paid someone to traffic her and bring her in, and they gave her a fake green card. I mean, she just presented what they gave her.
Right.
And she got, so all of this I was able to tie to the abuse. And that's how we were able to ask for forgiveness and get the green card. So she's a green card holder, even though all these attorneys, all these people were telling her she never would be. And that was a game changer for me. I was like, I want to do it again. I want to do it again, because I just remember of course I can't help everyone, but I want to do that over and over again.
That's an amazing story. Yeah, good for you for helping her out. And that's just another example of saying before of that drive and that, that ethic to like, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to take care of my children. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get back in the country, and then to continue to work to get it done the right way after the fact. That's amazing. What an amazing story that is. And so she's still here in the States doing her thing. That's great.
She could apply for citizenship soon, actually.
Oh yeah. Yeah. How long does the citizenship take typically?
So the process itself takes a year, but if you're married to a citizen, you can apply after 3 years with a green card. And then if you're married, and most other people have to wait 5 years with a green card to apply for citizenship.
Okay. So it's once you have your green card, it's 5 year. It's a 5-year period before you can apply for citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So what are some of the most common mistakes that people make before they seek legal help for immigration, and how can they avoid them?
One common mistake is getting married and not divorcing your spouse from another country. They think, I've heard this so many times, that no, it doesn't count, it's in another country, or I haven't even talked to the person in 20 years, because that's what happens. People leave their families and then they're separated for so long. I mean, someone's working here, sending money, and the other one's taking care of the kids, back home.
Mm-hmm.
There's a separation. So people meet people, think they're not the couple they were.
Right.
So a lot of times they stay married, they forget they were married maybe, and then they meet someone else and they get married here. And then guess what? That marriage is not even valid. So that is a very, unfortunately, common thing I've come across. Another one is people just get the wrong advice, and they tell them, oh, you qualify because you've been here for 10 years. What they're referring to is a process that you can only do in immigration court, which means you're putting yourself in deportation proceedings, essentially. And it's just the riskiest way to do things and very hard to win. So a lot of people end up getting deported that way. Just because they're told it does get them a temporary work permit, so they think they won in the short term,
mm-hmm.
But then in the end they end up with a deportation.
So when should someone who's undocumented go to an immigration attorney? Like what's the right time to do that? Immediately, like as soon as you cross the border, or like or not necessarily cross the border, there's lots of different ways people come into the country, but what's the right time to seek that legal representation?
Depends on the situation. I would say it's always the right time, because you never know. I mean, I'll tell you what my dad said. I mean, and this is what I hear from my clients as well. So my dad didn't go to an attorney for 2 years after coming here, because everyone he knew was telling him, there's no way, don't waste your money. There's no way, don't waste your money, right? Because they're projecting their own situation.
Right.
So, and so he wasted 2 years. And finally was like, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. So if an attorney says no, I'm just going back. And when he went, they found a way. They were eligible. Back then it was a little easier than it is now. A lot easier. Yeah. And they found a way. And I guess they were, with the way that they were doing things. And then that's how they got their status. And, and a lot of people, I hear people say that, like, people wait 5, 10, 15, 20 years because people around them are telling them there's no need, don't waste your money. They're just going to tell you no. And maybe that's what they tell you, but at least you know why, right? Like, at least you know why you don't qualify. There's value in that. And then you'll know when it's time, like the next time.
Right. That story you told me about the woman who, came back into the country to take care of her children and, luckily found you and got things done the right way. And you're talking about, your father hearing other people project their experience and saying, don't even try. What are the kind of in that same vein with those two stories? What are there red flags that someone should look for when they're going to see an immigration attorney to let them know, like, this is not the person I need to be working with? And then what are the green flags to let them know, like, when they come see you, oh, Sharon's going to help me out. I'm in the right place. I'm in a safe place. This is someone who's going to take care of me. What are some things that people need to look for in an immigration attorney to let them know, or to not look for when to let them know they're in the right place?
It's a good question. Number one, make sure they're an attorney. Unfortunately, a lot of people in the immigrant community fall for people who aren't even attorneys. They're known as notarios. And it's because in a lot of Spanish-speaking countries, notarios actually have more prestige than an attorney. And so they're kind of, it's a misnomer. Like, they just think that it's better, right? Or
what is that? Tell me what a notario is.
And it's basically a notary. And then
a notary. Okay. That's right. Okay.
They're like doing legal work, and a lot of times they don't know what they're doing, and they really mess up a person.
Does that happen in the US or just
a lot?
Really?
Yeah. And it used to happen a lot more, I believe, like in the 90s. There was a lot of, they were filing a lot of asylum cases that were getting people in proceedings.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one thing to look out for. Make sure that they are a licensed attorney.
Make sure they're actually a licensed attorney. Yes. And make sure they explain to you why you qualify. I've heard from people saying, I didn't know that they were basing it on, everything in I wasn't even fleeing from my country. I don't know why they filed for asylum. And they just signed and didn't really read what it said, because they trusted the person, kind of like a lot of people maybe do with their taxes, or, they just,
right.
I'm not saying it's right. You should always read what you're signing, but people do it. They just completely get themselves into a whole mess, and the person's not even licensed, probably not even using their real name and address that they move away from, and they're nowhere to be found. So,
okay,
fortunate.
Good to know. Should a good immigration attorney be bilingual, or should that not be a deal breaker?
I don't think it's a deal breaker. There are people, like, for example, I've met a lot of people from Central American countries, from Mexico, where there are a lot of people who don't even speak Spanish. They speak a dialect. So it would be really hard to tell those people, find an attorney in your language, because it's going to be hard for them to find, right? So right. I do think we sometimes have to work with translators and just use the tools that we have. If you can, I do think it's best to hire an attorney in your language, because it's always, you're not going to express yourself. Even if you speak English well, you're not going to express yourself the same way. And in these types of cases, like, the details, the storytelling, your story, it matters so much that clear communication, it really makes a difference. Another reason it is important is when I've gone to interviews with clients, I'm listening to the interpreter, right? And so I can hear, I'll stop, I'll pause, and I'll say, hey, that was a bad interpretation. There's going to be a wrong answer here. So, let's fix that question. I can't do that if I don't understand the interpreter.
Gotcha. Yeah. I imagine that also just, think someone will get lost in translation that way. And you talk about storytelling, and really being able to understand the story, someone's story. If you're not speaking their language, a translator is not going to necessarily get that emotional side of things across to you, like speaking in that person's native tongue would. So that makes a whole lot of sense, for sure. So you're not just practicing law, from what I understand. You're educating, you're speaking, you're advocating. Why, for you, is it so important for immigration attorneys to use their voice publicly?
Because I can't tell you the number of times people have come to my office, or we've had, virtual consults. The amount of times that they would say, if I didn't see your video, I wouldn't have known about this. I wouldn't have known that I qualified for this. And I think even the number of visas being applied for has increased. I think, in my opinion, I think that's the reason the U visas have gotten such a backlog, is because people became more aware thanks to social media. Same with VAWA. People, so it's people realizing, wow, my day-to-day actually qualifies me for something. And so, it's everything. It's really changing lives.
I love that you're advocating and getting the word out. It's super important. And like you said, there are so many people out there who are scared, and it's awful. That's kind of what we've come to. And it's good that there are people like you who are trying to make things maybe a little, I mean, it's never, I don't think it's, at least for the foreseeable future, it's never going to not be scary, but it's nice that there are people like you who can kind of help to navigate treacherous waters for sure. Sharon, last question for you. If you could change one thing about the immigration system in the United States, something that would make the biggest difference for real people, what would that thing be? I know it's a big question.
Some type of amnesty, something for the people who've been here already for a certain amount of years, who've proven to have strong, moral character. I'm not one to say everyone should stay, right? There's a reason we have rules, and we have a process, and that process is one that we trust, and that we know we're selecting the right people who deserve to stay here. But there are a lot of people who deserve to, they've proven themselves. They've raised their children here. Their children go off they go off and fight wars.
Right.
Some of them can't even, there's some type of help for them, but we still can't help all of them. I just think there has to be something for all the good, all the people in our community we want to stay.
Or people who start businesses and create jobs that for other people who are also paying taxes into the system. And yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. We need to figure out what that is.
I met a man the other day who was making like $5 million a year in his business. And he's been undocumented for like 20 years. I just, Is
he undocumented because he's just not done the work, or
has a very difficult case? Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. But,
Wow, that's crazy. Well, I'm hoping that there are brighter days ahead. I know it may be 2-3 years from now, unfortunately, but I'm hoping that there are brighter days ahead, and that things are going to not be as crazy as they are right now. For anybody out there who is watching and who is listening, who either needs some help themselves or knows someone who needs some help, Sharon, let people know out there how they can get in touch with you, how they can find you and your law firm.
Yeah, so you can always call us at 310-803-3040. Or you can reach out to us. Our website is aboudlegal.com. And you can book a consult there as well.
Awesome. Sharon, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. And thank you for the work that you're doing for people. It's super important. And it sounds like you are making a difference for a lot of people all the time. And I know that you want to make more of a difference, which is great. Just the desire to want to do more is fantastic. So I really do appreciate you making some time today to talk to me and to talk to our audience. And I really, again, keep fighting the good fight and doing what you're doing to help people out. Really appreciate you giving us some time today. Those of you who are, you got it. Those of you who are watching the live stream out there, we appreciate you guys tuning in as well. If you're watching or listening to the show after the fact on YouTube, or listening on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts, we appreciate you guys tuning in as well. All of you, we implore you to please leave us the likes and the thumbs and the stars. All those things really help us to get the word out to more people about the show, and help people like Sharon here get more word out about what she's doing to help people's lives. We will be back. I'll be back later on this afternoon with another great episode of Partnership for Profits. Hopefully our guest brings as much great stuff to the table as Sharon has brought today. Until then, I will see you next time on another episode of P for P. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.